that. You want to probably isolate yourself from the noise. But at the end of the day, the arts as a field is also a very competitive space, isn't it?
I didn't go into music to become an artist. I'd never imagined I'd make an album. That wasn't why I went into music. I went to music to sing. You know what I would do when I started singing? I became a music beggar. I truly would. I heard, for the very first time, I heard Pandit Jasraj sing. And I heard him, I was sitting in the first row because I was a patron of this arts organization. I didn't know who he was. I'd never heard Hindustani music. I'd been in Brazilian, Carnatic, all of that, but never much with Hindustani. I sat in the first row, and then he started singing. And then for the next 4 hours or 3 hours that he sang, I must have cried through the entire concert of his because it was so beautiful, so magical. And in my mind, I said to myself, I want to learn from him. And, like this, but of course, most of these people take students when you're
They're
5
young
and they live with them and they travel with them and do all of this. But the universe has a way of working. And I've got to tell you a very wonderful story about Pandit Jasraj, who I wanted to learn from, but I didn't know him. And I went to a concert of his after that again. Somebody calls me up. This is a week or two after I'd had this incredible experience, and I'm telling God or the divine, I want to learn music this way. I want to experience music where this combination of bhakti and notes come together. This is what's going through my head. I'm praying. I don't know quite how I'm doing it. A friend of mine randomly calls me up and he says, 2 weeks later, and he says, and this is so bizarre, the coincidence, that I can't call it a coincidence, I call it universal synchronicity. He says, oh, I'm a single guy, and I'm going to have Pandit Jasraj to my house for dinner tomorrow. But they have just called me up and given me a list of dietary requirements for him, which I cannot meet because I'm a single guy. I was going to order Chinese food, but he doesn't eat onions, he doesn't eat garlic, he doesn't eat anything. I don't know what to do. Do you think we can move the dinner to your house? And, because you've got cooks and stuff, so maybe you can do it. I said, of course, this is the guy I've been dying to meet. Yeah. So this is how I met Pandit Jasraj, and then I begged him to teach me. And I met all these teachers. So for me, this journey of finding music was never about performing. And when Pandit Jasraj gave me his senior most disciple to teach me, Pandit Girish Vazalwar, who passed away, I would sing for 10 hours a day.
You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I am Parmeshwar Bava. We've got an action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top headlines you need to know. India and Ghana have inked 4 agreements following talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. Trade just doubled as UPI goes global. The All Indian Cine Workers Association has raised strong objections over the reappearance of some social media accounts of Pakistani actors in India. This is several social media accounts of celebrities from Pakistan, also YouTube channels, which were blocked following the Pahalgam terror attack, now appear to be accessible again. US President Donald Trump has struck a trade deal with Vietnam with terms that take aim at China. Washington will have free access to Vietnam's market. Trump said, while Hanoi will pay a 20% tariff on its goods to the US and 40% on products originating from other countries. A war of words has broken out between the Chinese and Tibetans after the 14th Dalai Lama announced continuation of the institution of the Dalai Lama. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs was found not guilty of racketeering and sex trafficking, but convicted of a less serious prostitution charge after a high-profile 7-week trial in New York. Our big focus, Prime Minister Modi has kick-started his 5-nation tour and is currently in Ghana. This marks his first bilateral visit to the country, and India and Ghana have inked 4 agreements following talks between Prime Minister Modi and Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. He also held delegation-level talks with Ghana's President during his touchdown to the West African country. You must note that trade is being doubled as UPI goes global, and these 4 MOUs were signed. But during this visit, Prime Minister Modi has also said that India and Ghana are in complete agreement that terrorism is an enemy of humanity, and he thanked Ghana for its cooperation in India's fight against terrorism. Let's just listen into the Prime Minister's remarks.
हम एक मत है कि आतंकवाद मानवता का दुश्मन है। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ हमारी लड़ाई में सहयोग के लिए हम गाना का आभार प्रकट करते हैं। इस संदर्भ में हमने काउंटर टेररिज्म में आपसी सहयोग को और मजबूत करने का निर्णय किया है। यूएन रिफॉर्म्स को लेकर हमारा दृष्टिकोण एक जैसा है। पश्चिम एशिया और यूरोप में चल रहे कॉन्फ्रेंस को लेकर हम दोनों ने गहरी चिंता व्यक्त की है। हमारा मानना है कि युद्ध का युग नहीं है। डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी से ही समस्या का समाधान होना चाहिए।
My colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been tracking the finer developments. He joins us live at the moment. Ghazali, as we were discussing, considering China's growing footprint in the region, take us through the significance of Prime Minister Modi's Ghana touchdown.
See, this visit to Ghana serves multiple purposes for India's diplomacy. One, that India is expanding its own footprint. As you know, that the membership of BRICS is expanding. The membership of G20 is expanding. We are getting more and more members in these 2 global forums. African Union, we have given them a permanent membership for G20. Ghana also happens to be one of the key states of the African region, and that is why to show that kind of support to Ghana is very significant for India at a time when there are global turbulence in terms of diplomacy, in terms of conflict, and that is why 2 issues Prime Minister raised there while his counterpart from Ghana. One, about that this is not the era of war, and dialogue and diplomacy is something through which we can achieve and foster good relations and settle down most of the conflict. So that is why this is significant. Second, that India is also diversifying its needs when it comes to energy partnership, when it comes to having good trade ties with other nations, and also being the voice of the global south. The Prime Minister has also expressed that in most of these countries, which are smaller nations, India is also taking up public-centered projects. And this is why if you see those MOUs are centered around to help Ghana develop on how to harness the critical minerals, and also in the sectors like the digital payment initiative, or when it comes to other areas where India can assist Ghana, when it comes to pharmacy, when it comes to medical sector, India is going to assist Ghana in tapping those opportunities as well. So it's also a way to counter Chinese influence there. It is also a way to isolate or sort of send Pakistan a message that what kind of steps India is taking, diplomatic initiatives, to isolate it on the global level.
Ghazali, thanks so much as always for joining us with the latest. For further clarity, joining us at the moment, the former president of the Indian Association and currently part of the Sindhi Association of Ghana, Ashok Mohinani. Mr. Mohinani, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV. Having been the president of the Indian Association in Ghana, how do you perceive the long-term impact of Prime Minister Modi's visit on India-Ghana relations, especially for the diaspora community?
I think it's very appropriate and very significant. There's been long historic ties with India and Ghana, but with a new government in place since January and a new era, it's the right time to try and cement the old ties. And there is quite a lot of business with India, but there's still the prospects for potential is very great. So I think the timing is very appropriate.
Well, you mentioned business. The signing of 4 MOUs actually covers diverse areas from traditional medicine to standardization. But which of these, in your view, holds the most promise for real change in India-Ghana engagement on the ground? And if you could also tell us more about the Indian footprint on Ghana's economy.
The Indians have been here for over 100 years. We've been contributing in various aspects, and over time, the diaspora has grown. It doesn't only the original settlers and were shopkeepers and commerce related. It's now grown to not only multinationals having a presence here, but large grown businesses in various sectors, from packaging to steel to even the mining sector to infrastructure to power. And it's not only we've got private sector, family owned, individual owned businesses, but also a lot of collaboration and representation from multinational who have a presence here. IT also is a big sector. The Indians have played a big part in
Yes.
in the growing the economy of Ghana, but I still think there's quite a lot more we can do in many of the aspects, in many fields.
Well, Mr. Mohinani, thank you so much for joining us. We really do hope that we see some great tangible gains on the ground as far as India and Ghana's relationship is concerned. Meanwhile, at a time when Prime Minister Modi has sent out a strong message against terror in Ghana, our Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar gave out a similar message in the United States, saying that all countries need to speak in one voice against terror. This as he met with the FBI Chief Kash Patel and US Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Listen in.
It is a fact that countries, often countries do not take a position when some other country is a victim of terrorism, which they would do when they themselves are. We have, in that respect, honestly been much more consistent and principled. That we have, when terrorist incidents, attacks happen elsewhere, outside India, we have largely followed the same position that we have taken when they have happened in India. So, is your point that others not doing it? My answer to you is yes, you are right. Many of them are not doing it or not doing it sufficiently enough. And part of diplomacy is to exhort them, encourage them, persuade them, motivate them to do that.
In other news, the All Indian Cine Workers Association has raised strong objections over the reappearance of social media accounts of Pakistani actors in India. You know, several social media accounts of Pakistani celebrities, also YouTube channels of the country's news organizations, which were blocked following the Pahalgam terror attack, now appear to be accessible again. The Instagram accounts of several Pakistani celebrities such as Mara Hokan, Yumna Zaidi, Ahad Raza Mir and Danish Taimur are now said to be accessible from India. But you must also note that the accounts of other Pakistani actors such as Fawad Khan, Mahira Khan and Hania Amir continue to be inaccessible meanwhile. Well, the other crucial story we're tracking on NDTV, India has voiced deep concern over the abduction of 3 of its nationals in Mali, a country grappling with a fresh wave of terrorist attacks. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs has said the Indian workers employed at the Diamond Cement factory in Case were taken hostage during a coordinated armed assault on the factory premises on the 1st of this month, just 2 days ago. A day after the incident, India formally called up the Mali government to take all necessary measures to ensure their safe and expeditious release. In fact, the MEA has said that the incident occurred on the 1st of July when a group of armed assailants carried out a coordinated attack at the factory premises and forcibly took 3 Indian nationals as hostages. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been tracking all the latest details for us. He joins us live at the moment. Ghazali, we're given to understand that Al-Qaeda-linked JNIM has claimed responsibility, but take us through the further details. We need clarity at the moment.
Yeah, so this particular incident happened on July 1st in Permeshwar. Ironical that when Prime Minister and the External Affairs Minister, they both have condemned terrorism and have been asking countries to take a stand against terrorism. This deplorable incident has happened where 3 Indian workers have been abducted by one of the terror groups who were involved, who attacked that particular facility, the other mining site. the External Affairs Ministry is in touch with the relevant authorities, with the Mali government as well, and other non-state actors as well, to ensure that these people are relieved. Because we have seen this happening in multiple other countries where Indians have been armed, have been at the receiving end of terror. So right now, the Indian embassy in Mali is also in touch with the relevant authorities as well as with the families of those who have been abducted. And Indian government is trying its level best to ensure the safe, to actually to get to know about their safety and all that, where they have all been taken, the abducted Indians, and also trying with the relevant authorities to ensure their safe release.
Sari, thanks so much for joining us with the latest breaking news information coming in. Switching tracks, US President Donald Trump has struck a trade deal with Vietnam with terms that take aim at China. Washington will have free access to Vietnam's markets, Trump said, while Hanoi will pay a 20% tariff on its goods to the US and 40% on products originating from other countries. Now, under Trump's Liberation Day regime, Vietnam had faced among the highest duties in the world. China is Vietnam's biggest trading partner, and Washington had accused Hanoi of acting as a channel for Chinese manufacturers to circumvent US duties. Now, as the US pushes for trade deals ahead of that July 9th deadline, Beijing is growing increasingly wary of agreements that isolate Chinese firms from global supply chains, many analysts have argued. In further updates from the US, Republican discord threatened to derail Donald Trump's tax and spending bill, with the US president facing the biggest challenge yet to his ironclad grip on the party. The version of the bill passed by the Senate has angered both House conservatives and moderates by trimming less in spending and more from Medicaid, respectively. Now, Trump has doubled down on efforts to muscle the bill through before his July 4th deadline, meeting with lawmakers at the White House and also working the phones, as you can imagine. But so far, Trump has deployed his playbook of public bullying and political threats to keep lawmakers in line, some experts argue. But he will also face the mammoth task of selling the bill to skeptical American voters. For further clarity, joining us at the moment, Daniel Block. Daniel, always a pleasure to have you on our show. What does this internal GOP friction actually signal about Trump's political leverage this time around? Has it weakened?
I think that we should expect the bill will pass.
Okay.
I think we should expect the bill will actually pass relatively soon. I mean, if I were betting, I think he'll get it before his July 4th deadline.
Right.
If not, I think he'll get it shortly thereafter. I mean, what we're seeing right now in some ways is the same thing we saw when the bill went through the US House of Representatives the first time, and what we've seen in the past, which is different House members on both flanks of the party make a big show of being uncomfortable with it or wanting changes, and then eventually under pressure from Trump and from the rest of the party, they come around. And we're seeing that happen right now. The number of representatives who suggested they might vote no is steadily dwindling.
Daniel, meanwhile, from a foreign policy standpoint, how much Trump's spending priorities, which is basically favoring tax cuts over social programs, reshape America's global commitments, particularly in defense and foreign aid?
Well, I did see one fun stat that the amount of money the United States is about to be spending on border security will eclipse the military budget of many different countries. I think that if I were another country looking at the United States right now, I would see this largely as a domestic matter. But at the same time, there are certainly, as you're noting, international implications. One is simply the debt. This is going to cause the U.S. national debt to increase by trillions of dollars. You know, the U.S. has long served as the center of the financial world. The dollar is the world's reserve currency.
Yes.
And countries have counted on the United States to be a relatively stable economic investment and market. But if the debt continues to explode as time goes on, you could see some of that faith to waver. That's something that's being talked about right now in American economic circles.
Meanwhile, given the urgency around Trump's July 4th deadline, which is, by the way, for us in India, it's tomorrow, is this a calculated show of force tied to national symbolism, or would you say it's a signal of deeper legislative vulnerability?
I think that to some extent, both are true.
Okay.
I'd say more the former. That's just my guess. I think you're right. It's a show of national pride and national power. For viewers who don't know, July 4th is Independence Day in the United States, and this is going to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence. So having it done and wrapped up by then, there's certainly a lot of pride and ego tied up in that for the US president. At the same time, I think the other element of it is also true, where by getting it done so quickly, by really jamming it through Congress in a very, very compressed period, Trump is illustrating his dominance over the Republican Party.
Well, Daniel, as always, it's a pleasure to hear your views. Thank you so much for making time for us and joining us on NDTV. Meanwhile, a New York jury has found Sean Diddy Combs guilty of 2 counts and not guilty on 3 counts, following a closely watched 7-week federal trial marked by emotional and graphic testimony. This mixed verdict saw Combs being found not guilty of the biggest charge, racketeering conspiracy, not guilty of the sex trafficking of Cassandra Ventura or the sex trafficking of Jane, and guilty of both the transportation to engage in prostitution related to Cassandra and the transportation to engage in prostitution related to Jane. The verdict was delivered on Wednesday morning local time after 13 hours across 3 days of deliberation by a jury it comprised of 8 men and 4 women. After the verdict came down, Combs knelt down in front of his chair and appeared to pray, but I want you to note the imagery here. He then faced the gallery and clapped, which led to the gallery responding with claps and cheers. The latest news and updates continues right in a moment after this very short break. Don't go anywhere.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Welcome back. Well, India's space biology era begins with mussel, algae and microbes at the space station. India's own astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla is working diligently trying to complete the 7 Indian experiments. As India embarked on its maiden space biology journey aboard the International Space Station through mission Akash Ganga, spearheaded by the Department of Biotechnology and conducted by Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, these very basic experiments explore mussel regeneration, algae cultivation, and nutrient recycling, laying the foundation for future human spaceflight and biomanufacturing. Our science editor Pallav Bagla spoke to Dr. Rajesh Gokhale, a scientist and secretary of the Department of Biotech, to elicit the details. Listen in.
Doing biology experiments in space is not easy. India is conducting several biology experiments at the International Space Station as part of the Axiom 4 mission, which I sometimes called mission Akash Ganga, and some of these experiments will be done by Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla at the International Space Station. I have with me Dr. Rajesh Gokhale. He's a biologist, secretary of the Department of Biotechnology, and some of the experiments on biology are being spearheaded by his department. Thanks a lot for speaking to me, Dr. Rakesh. What are these first baby steps of doing biology in space?
I think this is a fascinating time, right? I mean, one of the key aspects of life sciences or biology is adaptability. And the once experiments that are planned in the space are the kind of adaptations that we have never tested and tried. And this is the microgravity feeling. You can try to simulate it, but you can't achieve that target. So this is like a floating lab in the space that is going to really recreate how biological adaptations can be futuristic in its goals and its various functions and aims. That is what we are trying to look at.
So is this a first step? Because we first have Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla doing these experiments at International Space Station. We wanted Bharatiya Antarik Station and then an Indian on the moon. So these are first step towards having a full-fledged astrobiology or space biology program in India?
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful initiative. I mean, we are just beginning this journey. Let's just say this, very, very clearly, because as we start these, experiments to be done over there, the complexity of experiments will become better. Our understanding of analysis will become better. Our ability to execute them has also to become refined as well. Actually,
thanks a lot for speaking to me, Rajesh. Always a pleasure. So that was Dr. Rajesh Gokhale telling us about India's first forays into space biology. There is only one Earth which we call home for the biology we understand. The space station is one home outside Earth which has been occupied for the last 25 continuous years. Now India is doing experiments at the International Space Station, and Group Captain Subhanshu Shukla is going to contribute to that knowledge. First baby steps, but then a long journey begins. In New Delhi, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.
Let's turn our attention now to Europe, where 2 people died in a wildfire in Spain's Catalonia. This is just a day ago, which was largely contained, though more wind and thunderstorms are expected in the region. This is what emergency services and officials have actually said on ground zero. Europe is grappling with a severe heat wave, as we've been extensively covering. The blaze in Spain and Italy has largely been flaring, destroying several farms, affecting areas over 40 kilometers as per local firefighters. But there were no casualties as far as Italy is concerned. We'll keep tracking the latest for you as far as the heat wave in England and Europe is concerned. For now, let's turn our attention to the other big story we're tracking, an NDTV exclusive. Navy veteran Gauri Mishra wins big at the World Masters track cycling meet. This ex-naval officer Gauri Mishra has won 2 golds and a silver at the World Masters track cycling in Taiwan. She actually began cycling only in 2019, and she's now promoting Pedal for Planet with her son, a cycling champion too. Gopika spoke to her. Listen in.
Gauri Mishra, a former naval officer, has won 2 gold medals and 1 silver medal in track cycling in the World Masters Games 2025 in Taiwan. How special are these 2 gold medals and 1 silver medal for you?
I picked up track cycling at the age of 40 when most of the people, they plan to leave track cycling. I picked up track cycling, and competing on a world stage is very, very difficult, because we are competing with all the masters athletes who were once Olympians and medal holders at international platform. So competing with them, learning with them, and being with them is itself a great feeling. And let me tell you, I feel so special that I could win 2 gold and 1 silver medal in track cycling.
How did your naval career shape this passion?
Indian Navy defense is all about discipline, and being served in Indian Navy for around 2 decades gave me that kind of perseverance and discipline. I'm very thankful to services that they gave me that kind of discipline. This sports also demand discipline, hard work and practice, lot of practice. Out of then, if you have all these, then comes the mental strength also.
Ma'am, your son Ryan is also a cycling champion. So is there a mom-son race?
Ryan was 6 years old when he made his first world record. And we have a mission. We pedal for planet. We want to reduce carbon footprint and encourage children, women to take up fitness. So then Ryan picked up track cycling. I also picked up track cycling because I wanted him to learn.
Signing off with Suresh, Gopika for NDTV.
And finally, Deepika Padukone will be getting her own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame soon. She has etched her name in history by becoming the first Indian actress to be honored with a star on the popular sidewalk in LA. The Hollywood Chamber of Commerce revealed the list, placing Padukone alongside international stars like Demi Moore, Rachel McAdams, Emily Blunt, and Timothée Chalamet. The honorees were actually chosen from hundreds of nominations by a panel during a meeting that was held last month. The selection was later approved by the Chamber's Board of Directors. Thank you for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, news and updates continue. Do stay tuned.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
A very good morning. You're watching The Breakfast Show on NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vata. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including what's happening in Maharashtra. M&S workers still haven't been arrested after that assault that took place. And on the other side, power abuse taking place in the state of Himachal Pradesh. That and a whole lot more on The Breakfast Show. Let's start with the headlines. Despite outrage over the assault of a shopkeeper by M&S goons near Mumbai, now there have been no arrests that have been made in the case yet. Shocking power abuse in Himachal Pradesh. FIR targets the NHAI engineer who alleged assault. Now the minister is brazenly denying thrashing the engineer. This is after that case was registered against him. The 38-year-old, this is the 38-day-long Amarnath Yatra has officially begun this morning amid tight security arrangements. In the Kolkata campus horror, NDTV gets you access. We had access to the police plea in court, and NDTV brings to you chilling tactics that were used by the accused that have been exposed in that plea. Prime Minister Modi is in Ghana. Well, this is that 5-nation tour, and of course the Prime Minister there sending out that strong message against terrorism, and he's also been conferred with the top Ghana national honor for his statesmanship and his leadership in Global South. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has launched a scathing attack on ex-Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy. This is after Jagan Mohan Reddy went ahead and met with the victim's family, that convoy death case. Now, Chandrababu Naidu has called it a political stunt. 51 people have died in a matter of 2 weeks in Himachal Pradesh due to the monsoon fury. Several people are missing amid floods and landslides. Let's get to our top story, and this is in regard to Maharashtra, and this is after the man that was trashed. This is a sweet shop keeper who was trashed by M&S workers. 7 M&S workers have been booked in the case after that video went completely viral. This is after they were asked as to why is it that the man, the shopkeeper of that sweet shop, was not speaking in Marathi. He was speaking in Hindi, and that is when the M&S workers started to thrash this shopkeeper. Now, no arrests so far have been made in the case, even though the government in Maharashtra has been slamming, what's really taken place and what really transpired, and so has the opposition. We have Sujata joining us. Sujata, take us through, after, despite, that outrage when it comes to the shopkeeper who was thrashed, yet no arrests have been made in the case. What is keeping the government from arresting the 7 who've been caught on camera?
Well, certainly, and what is even more shocking is that when this entire incident unfolded on the night of 29th, there was no FIR registered immediately. It was an NC that was done, and after which, when the Traders Association came together, they went on to complain, and then an FIR was registered, which took almost 28 hours for the police to register a FIR in the matter. Now, this entire situation has created and triggered a sense of unease amongst the traders union, and today they will be protesting across Meera Bhainder, keeping